Savant, thank you so much. More coming up on that story, obviously. Now, on to the other big national story. George Zimmerman goes to court this afternoon. He was arrested yesterday for second-degree murder in the shooting of Trayvon Martin. Let's go to Sanford, Florida. Phil Keating is there right now. Phil, good morning. First of all, as you are in Sanford, Florida, there's a lot of attention focused there. There are also fears that there are going to be big overreactions, a lot of people angry, a lot of polarization. What are you feeling there?
Oh, we're seeing and hearing none of that anymore. Basically, all of that potential totally dissolved yesterday at 6 p.m. Eastern time when the special prosecutor, Angela Corey, live on national television from her offices in Jacksonville, Florida, announced not only that he was going to be criminally charged, George Zimmerman, the shooter of Trayvon Martin, but that she was choosing the absolute maximum charge available to her. She could have gone with manslaughter or involuntary manslaughter on the lower end. Instead, she went for second-degree murder, which brings a life term in prison if convicted. So by 8:24 p.m. Eastern time, well, that's when George Zimmerman, in the custody of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, entered the Sally Port of the Seminole County Jail, wearing a plaid shirt, covering his face with a jacket so you couldn't see him, but he was handcuffed in front of his body as he was quickly walked in there. And moments later, we got the mugshot of him, the most recent and accurate photo of the 28-year-old, who, of course, claimed self-defense under Florida's Stand Your Ground law in the shooting that happened on the night of February 26th. And right now at 1:30 p.m. in the courthouse up behind me, that is when George Zimmerman will have his first appearance and possible bond hearing. Steve?
What is the thinking, and I know it's speculation on your part, but what is the informed speculation about whether he'll actually get bail and leave?
Well, that's going to be an interesting question. The prosecutors are going to argue, look, his old attorneys quit because he went underground. They lost him. He's clearly a flight risk, yet the defense attorney, the new one's going to argue, well, he turned himself in voluntarily to Florida Department of Law Enforcement in Jacksonville yesterday when he knew he was going to be charged with a crime. And so that will be interesting to hear for the judge. What's even more compounding here is being charged with second-degree murder. But you've got Florida's Stand Your Ground law, this controversial self-defense law, which, as it's written on the Florida statutes, is if you're anywhere in the state of Florida and you have a reasonable fear that your life is in danger, you can use deadly force. And that's been his claim all along, that while Zimmerman perhaps initiated the pursuing and following of Trayvon Martin through the neighborhood, he claims that Trayvon Martin is the one who threw the first punch and had him on the ground and was punching him. The prosecutor obviously felt that the evidence did not support the self-defense claim, but that is definitely going to be the route the defense attorney takes, and that means they'll have to go to a separate pretrial hearing, and a judge will have to see whether there is enough evidence that George Zimmerman could claim self-defense. And if that judge agrees, then there's going to be no trial, there will be no jury, and he'll be set free. But we're a ways down the road from that. But I can tell you his new attorney is going to plead not guilty, and if it does get to a trial, very likely seek a change of venue.
All right, Phil Keating in Sanford right now. Thank you, Phil. Attorney Mark Haushalter is going to join us here for a moment. Good morning. We just heard that the mother of Trayvon Martin said on TV that this may well have been an accident. It could have been an accident. Did Zimmerman know this was a teenager who was unarmed? It might have just gotten out of control and been an accident. Does that change anything? Does that change the prosecutor's position at all if the mother's saying that?
Very much so. That is devastating right now for the prosecution. Prosecution's had everything going their way in the last, I would say, 48 hours. This is not good. Right now, the mother of the victim is saying on TV that it's an accident. It got out of control. That is not murder, too. And if the prosecution can't convince the mother of the victim that it's second-degree murder, they're going to have a real problem with 12 independent jurors.
How do you impanel a jury that doesn't come in with predisposed to something here?
This is going to be a major problem for the defense because this case has gone across the nation. The President Obama even got involved in this. There is extreme political pressure, and the well has already been poisoned. All you can do is try. You can move it around the case to a new venue. We'll probably see that. But in reality is the information has been disseminated and potential jurors have been tainted.
And it used to be we lived in a world where it was newspapers and the news that you would watch on 3 media outlets, and now it's not just cable, but you have access to the internet. So the world is this big now, and you know, even if you don't live there, you know about this story because of the internet. So to find jurors that are completely, you know, impervious to this or don't know anything,
you got to find them. They won't be impervious, but they have to be objective, right?
Yeah.
Good luck. Good luck. That's what I have to say to that.
You're dealing with human beings. One other question here for you, Mark. As we look at this situation, it has become a flashpoint in America. And there are, I say broadly, two sides on this. People are predisposed to think that this is a racial issue with another young African-American male wearing a hoodie gets killed just for being African-American and young and male and wearing a hoodie. And the other side that says, hey, this is another case of mainstream media piling on this situation, making it something it isn't. The Al Sharptons march into town. It becomes, they say about Trayvon, but it becomes about other issues. How does that play into all of this?
In my opinion, the charging of second-degree murder is politically motivated. No question about it. The first prosecutor who handled this case, who recused himself, wanted to put this to the people of Florida and have it done via grand jury and indictment. However, the new special prosecutor on this case doesn't want that to happen and made the big, bold charging decision of second-degree murder. Second-degree murder carries malice. Malice is ill will, okay, or hatred. They have to prove that to convict Zimmerman. And I'm telling you right now, I think we're going to have another Casey Anthony situation with a not guilty based on prosecutorial overcharging in this case. And you can blame it on not only the media, you can blame it also on our government. President Obama got involved in this case. We have Eric Holder, the Attorney General of the United States, getting involved in this case. There's extreme political pressure being put on this prosecutor to charge. And what they do, they overcharge the case to appease not only the general public, but the media and federal law.
And you think they run the risk, just to simplify what you're saying, of losing the case because they overcharged? Had they gone for voluntary manslaughter, it would have been an easier situation?
If it was been involuntary manslaughter, I'm going to tell you this case is much easier and there's a lot less elements, and the strength of those elements are a lot stronger on a manslaughter case versus second degree. Second degree murder, like I said, carries malice. They're going to have to prove that. And Florida being a stand your ground state, that is going to be an affirmative defense. And there are witnesses, as we heard on Fox earlier today, and I believe last night, that there are people that saw Trayvon on top of Zimmerman, consistent with Zimmerman's story. I'm not choosing one side or the other. I'm just saying it's an extremely difficult position for the prosecution to prove second-degree murder.
All right, Mark Haushalter, thank you so much. More on that coming up, obviously.
And he is a defense attorney, we should mention.
Yes.
He's a defense, not that you're coming from a case, you know, either way, but you are a defense attorney, so that's where you're more...
I'm much more comfortable in the defense shoes, but again, this is one of those cases.
Okay.
No, we got to go on. I just chimed in. I'm so sorry.
No, that's all right.
Thank you. Do you remember, speaking of last time a president chimed in on a murder case, it was Charles Manson, it was Nixon. Front page, Nixon declares Manson guilty. By the way, we have a Charles Manson story coming up. He was denied parole again, but it made front, and Manson stood up in court with his newspaper, now it would be his iPad, and he said, how can you, if the president thinks I'm guilty, it taints a case.
Well, you always hope that if there are so many passions, and believe me, there are two sides in this country. Each side is not going to be satisfied with the verdict.
Well, they never are, of course.
No, but it's a larger issue. It's so polarized that everybody's going to think it's a conspiracy. Everybody's going to think the deck is stacked. So that's why you hope that justice is cold and it's served coldly, and that it is slow, and justice will prevail. It's very hard. There's so much pressure being put on this case.
They thought there was a conspiracy that you and I and Dorothy wrote.
And there was.
So
Was there
no,
not a
there was
conspiracy?
not.
Yes.
So let's just, sometimes it is what it is. Yes? Can we just